Welcome to episode 2 of the series. It's Saturday, March 18th, 1978. The Jerry Garcia Band played 2 shows at Washington's Warner Theater. Blue Oyster Cult brought their Spectre sound to Buffalo's Memorial Auditorium. Allman Brothers virtuoso Dickie Betts delivered an electrifying performance at New Jersey's Capitol Theater, while Rush hit North Carolina's Greensboro Coliseum for a 20-song setlist featuring material from their latest album, A Farewell to Kings. But the biggest music gathering that day was in California. Ontario Motor Speedway drew 350,000 fans for California Jam 2, the sequel, a massive celebration hoping to revive the spirit of the original. California traffic jams began the day before, and authorities had to shut down the highway. People had to walk to the site by Saturday morning. The event made more money than the 1974 edition, but at the expense of some of the facilities falling short on their promise. According to fans, there were not enough bathrooms and a definite shortage of bathrooms. Although it didn't rain, it was cloudy and, according to some attendees, sort of colorless, but everyone was in for great music. The event was shot by ABC for a future broadcast a couple of months later. Bob Welch was the first artist to take the stage with a 6-piece touring band of Dave Adelstein on keyboards, Todd Sharp on electric guitar, not sure of this name but according to online sources, Lyra Botchick on drums, Chad Perry on bass, Jorge Calderon on acoustic guitar, and Rob Green on percussion. Adelstein and Sharp would later join Welch to record his next 2 solo albums. The band played a 60-minute 8-song setlist. As expected, most numbers came from Bob's French Kiss hit record, plus a 1973 Fleetwood Mac song Hypnotized from Mystery to Me, and 1 cut from Welch's power trio Paris in the Ways of Big Town 2061. Closing track Ebony Eyes was the sole number captured by ABC's cameras. Having guest spots by both Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood on tambourine may have something to do with it. Not only a catchy motif, but a playful track that showcased the group's tight interplay and punchy sound mix. We can speculate the musicians were probably inspired by Stevie's presence. Her enthusiasm is infectious, while coming up with vocal harmonies on the spot, a fine performance that will have you humming the guitar riff and chorus all day. It's a vital 70s soundtrack despite the boring stage design I mentioned on episode 1. Stevie kills it with a long note ad-lib that takes the song into music bliss, just as Bob Welch decides to go to the front of the stage for an energized but awkward dance. And yes, he reminds us of Napoleon Dynamite. He was living the moment, experiencing a huge crowd he would never attract on his own, and feeling the power of a passionate instrumental ending. This is the music that says everything's gonna be fine, despite the US inflation ahead. Don Branker took the stage for a public announcement before we move into a strange interview where he seriously questioned the journalist's intentions. He's trying to spark some controversy like modern day reality shows do. So we have backstage Mick Fleetwood, Bob Welch, and Stevie Nicks. The reporter goes for the Fleetwood Mac wound.
You wrote like a lot of material for Fleetwood Mac when you were with them, right? You did 5 albums and you're kind of moderate success, good solid following. Yeah. Then you leave, and a year... No, please don't hurt me with more.
Bob tries to play it cool, but it was a douchebag move by the interviewer.
About a year and a half later, they're like superstars. They got every rock award there is. Like,
yes, I know.
Kick yourself in the head?
No,
Next, a similar scenario where the reporter asks this question.
You can barely see the stage from here. Why did you come? Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter, just to hear it.
What a way to motivate a fan rocking a Farrah Fawcett hairstyle. Cue Sandy Feldman talking about the festival's dimensions and logistics. Leonard Sturgill was next, sharing his point of view and motivation to put the whole thing together. Although the ABC broadcast featured every Cal Jam 2 artist with Hart after Bob Welch, in reality, it was Dave Mason, the one who went after Bob and then Hart, so I will stick to the actual concert's running order. Also, stage-wise, it was easier to fix Mason after Welch because they had a similar band setup. So Mason took the stage with his Let It Flow lineup of Jim Kruger on guitar and vocals, Mike Finnegan on keyboards, Rick Yeager on drums, and Gerald Johnson on bass. It was the best move for Mason as this ensured his 1977 sound remained intact. Let me just say my research process has made me appreciate that record big time. I may grab a CD copy soon. By the way, there was an onstage percussionist as well, but I couldn't find his name. If anyone knows, please share it in the comments section below. They played a 9-song setlist comprised of 2 traffic numbers, Alone Together's 1970 tune, Look at You, Look at Me, 4 songs from Let It Flow, Bob Dylan's All Along the Watchtower, and the Spencer Davis Group classic Gimme Some Lovin' for a nice Steve Winwood connection besides Traffic. 4 songs were shot by ABC but broadcasted with a different running order. Once again, I will stick to the actual setlist. First off, we have Traffic's Pearly Queen, that underlines Dave Mason's consistent musicianship. Both vocals and lead guitar playing here is on point. Jim Kruger follows with more string power. Because it was a daylight show, you wonder how the audience felt after Bob Welch going into this fine display of chemistry and feel. Next we have the catchy chorus of Let It Go, Let It Flow. Now listening to this I can't help to think of the intro of Genesis 11 Earl of Mar from 1976, Wind and Wuthering. Dave's voice is in top shape as he pulls off the arrangement with ease. The band is focused and well rehearsed. Bassist Gerald Johnson steals the show on the mix. He kept the whole thing together. Last video number, taking the time to find, pretty much follows the musical style presented before, with little variation of textures. Not their fault, of course, it was a track from their most recent album. But in retrospect, the set's overall sameness in tone made it feel somewhat lost, amid the varied and dynamic performances that followed. Dave Mason led in style, yet I personally feel their setlist was like the Eagles at California Jam 1974. People know they were there, but it's hard to remember what they played. To further prove my point, ABC decided to place Art Scholl's Stunt Pilot segment in the middle of Mason's set. An exciting bit, but you wonder why they felt it was necessary to make this editing choice.
If you went looking for a word to describe Santana, supergroup might just be the word you'd choose.
I wouldn't call Santana a supergroup, as the classic lineup was gone, but it was a nice try by the reporter, who I don't think knew about Caravanserai. She was right about Santana selling tickets around the world. Cue a shot of Carlos Humberto Santana Barragan making his way to the stage, while some fans give their impressions on the festival. It was an overcrowded space, and it was later revealed that people were jammed together like sardines. Little space to move, a claustrophobe's worst nightmare. Now Santana raised the stakes in volume with a 7-song setlist of the Zombies' She's Not There cover, the 1971 classic No One to Depend On, followed by Jugando, a 1977 cut from Festival. Then they moved into the Abraxas combo, Black Magic Woman, Gypsy Queen, one-hit single from Amigos, Dance Sister Dance, followed by the Woodstock classic Soul Sacrifice. Encore Evil Ways left the Speedway in a state of Latin rock fever. 4 songs were taped by ABC. Jugando kicks off with a menacing riff that waits for no one. The red-shirt Yamaha SG2000 Carlos led the audience into a vicious jam that energizes the crowd like an adrenaline dance shot. Say what you will about Santana, but they were great entertainers. The lineup was made up of Tom Coster on keyboards, David Morgan on bass, Sheila E.'s father Pete Escobedo on timbales. Him matching Carlos's shirt color was a good move, as it creates a visual balance on stage. Drummer Graham Lear, while percussion duties were handled by the legendary Armando Peraza and Raul Rico.
There's more from Carlos Santana and company in just a moment. All
The set's Encore Evil Ways comes next with Greg Walker on lead vocals. What to say about this one? A proven hit that got people singing like it was 1969. You can tell this lineup had been playing together for a long time. There's an effortless display of groove. Keyboardist Tom Coster cooks a fiery solo and sends the group into an explosive cymbal jam led by Thunderman himself, Graham Lear. Santana goes into a lava flow rendition of Black Magic Woman, slightly sped up from the original. It's a show-stealing version thanks to the cowbell magic of Pete Escobedo. Going over the Santana footage made me pretty much forget Bob Welch and Dave Mason's sets. Maybe I'm biased as a guitar player, but you can help to be impressed by the visceral display of emotion here. They turned the studio cuts into live versions that worked in favor of the setting. Carlos signals who's getting a raise after the show. They go into a heavy Gypsy Queen transition that creates a sonic earthquake at the Speedway. Carlos and Tom Coster go into a nice harmony segment, heavy riffing, heavy drumming, heavy bass playing, heavy percussion. So far, they are the best cow jam performer. Last number, Soul Sacrifice, was the proper throwback to 1969. While it lacks some of the Woodstock subtlety, there's no denying of its mighty power. Dave Mason of all people joined for a guest spot doubling some of Carlos's guitar lines. They rock out a string duel, but Dave Mason is a bit low on the mix. We can see another guest spot, this time by American actor LeVar Burton from Roots, holding a tambourine. Soul Sacrifice's main riff morphs on stage as they jam like Madman, completely taken away by the power of music. No percussion nor long drum solo, they finished their set with a bang, a loud A minor chord. This was 1978 Santana, a spectacle, a celebration, living up to their Moonflower success. LeVar Burton shared his impressions of joining a killer performance.
Just caught LeVar Burton, the multi
multi-talented star of Roots coming off the backstage. How you doing, LeVar?
I'm fine, Susan. I was just up on stage. Santana just got off.
How did it feel to be on stage
with
and look out at that
Santana?
sea of people?
I was on that stage at 7 o'clock this morning, and there was nobody on stage but stagehands running around, and it was clear, no equipment, and there were thousands of people out there, thousands. And looking out there now, just about a half an hour ago, it's like you can see nothing for nothing but people, but faces and bodies. It's amazing.
Howard Lees on keyboards, guitar, and vocals, Steve Fossen on bass and vocals, Michael DeRosier on drums, Roger Fisher on lead guitar, and the Wilson sisters took the stage next. Hart performed a 14-song setlist made up of every standout cut from their 3-album discography at the time, plus the live debut of a still unreleased track, Mistral Wind. Only 3 songs were broadcasted by ABC in the ways of Little Queen, Magic Man, and Barracuda. We can see Roger Fisher's Jimmy Page-inspired look as he plays Little Queen's opening arpeggio. I almost want him to go into The Song Remains the Same rocking that red kimono. The string section of Nancy on acoustic and Howard on a golden Telecaster takes the audience into an adventure-style journey, a preparation into the depths of 70s mystique. Ann Wilson enjoys the instrumental overture that turns into a killer Led Zeppelin-inspired riff, listed by Hart. Her voice is exquisite, standing out like a messenger of fantasy and confident phrasing. Michael DeRosier's pocket drumming truly elevates the band's attitude. It's a hard-hitting statement shutting down the critics, if any. Hart could very well rock like their contemporaries. Next, it was the magic of Magic Man. The crowd goes wild. A massive hit like this you pay attention to. Once again, Ann Wilson delivers a passionate vocal take. The only problem I find with their set is how much it sounds like the studio versions, but what a great problem to have. Roger Fisher goes for Les Paul badassery, carefully recreating his famous lines. I think the band was never the same after he left. Ann's high registers rival the crazy guitar work. Stage-wise, Hart as a band were not the flashiest performers like Santana, yet they managed to keep the music impeccable. The best song for California Jam 2 was definitely Barracuda. It's a festival song to end all festival tracks that day. Barracuda had every angle covered. Once again, Ann's impressive vocal skills prove there's no studio trickery to their material, but chops, talent, and a committed heart to wear heels that high. You can tell this is the track the crowd was waiting for, myself included. The driving beat feels like racing Ontario's Speedway at max speed. It's interesting bass player Steve Fossen, Ann, and Roger wore red, while Nancy, Mike, and Howard chose white. It creates a contrast of intentions and personalities. Fisher adds the wild guitar hero element that matches Ann's commanding voice. Unlike Deep Purple 1974, there are no burning guitars or amps here, and maybe you wish there was. Live versions of the music need a danger element, you know? A great setlist by Hart. Speaking of dangerous stunts, American skateboard legend Laura Thornhill was interviewed before her set. By 1978, she was a championship name, one of the most prominent female skateboarders of the decade. Her family moved to California in 1974, and she was featured in many magazines at the time, landing big money prizes while her fame grew. California Jam 2 organizers decided to bring her talents, plus a supporting cast for a freestyle demo, while the crew set up the stage for the next group. Don Branker took the stage once again to tell people to cooperate and behave. Many complaints about bathroom shortage and other emergencies were real. And then it was a turn for Ted Nugent and the Ted Nugent Band, featuring Ted Nugent. Now let me just say this before I give you my review. Stranglehold is one of my favorite 70s rock songs. I really like the riff, the soloing, the singing, everything on it, and it's on heavy rotation on my classic rock selections. Please keep this in mind for what's next. From the get-go, it's clear Ted wasn't holding back on any Guitar Hero emotions. He feels like the main star and went for an impressive parkour-style jump up the drum riser and back.
Yeah, now he's sideways. Look at the air. Look at the hang time. Look at the flying motion.
While he didn't land on the wrong foot, it was a hard landing for sure. You wonder what his bandmates were thinking, but you gotta give him props for bringing the rock and roll attitude on stage. The team of Derek St. Holmes on guitar and vocals, Rob Grange on bass, plus Cliff Davis on drums played a 9-song set list taken from their 1975 through 1977 discography, plus 2 brand new cuts from their double live Gonzo album released just in time for California Jam 2. ABC shot 4 songs plus some interview footage. We begin with Cat Scratch Fever that ignited the stage with pure and raw dynamics. Windy conditions got Ted battling his hair getting in the way, but the music didn't suffer. Played with just the right amount of Ted and Nugent. Past his flashy soloing and antiques, I need to highlight the work of the band. A tight rhythm section that speaks of late 70s precision. Just What the Doctor Ordered is next, and Derek St. Holmes on lead vocals made me forget Ted singing. What a performer. Derek brings much needed justice to the setlist with absolute frontman delivery that actually helps to balance Nugent's theatrics. Derek makes the song work, and this guitar part speaks of his great dynamics control. As much as Ted wants to be the star, St. Holmes was a secret weapon next to the killer bass lines by Rob Grange. This is what a band sounds like, despite repeating the same keys and chords so much. Motor City Madhouse starts off with Mr. Nugent on top of his guitar heads, preceding David Gilmour's Comfortably Numb thing. Once again, he delivers an impressive jump that could kill a mortal's Achilles tendon, but not Ted Nugent. He Chuck Norris'd his way through it. Now you can tell by this move right here that a personality clash with Derek St. Holmes seems inevitable. Ted seems determined to steal the spotlight, but his vocals were not at Derek's level. It's no wonder this lineup had its days numbered. The fast section soloing pumps the crowd with a heavy dose of Grand Funk inspired sounds. Ted stops playing and you can really hear Derek's guitar.
Come on now.
Ted goes for a wild solo, and I hope that tail didn't come from an animal he hunted down and shot. Now he over Nugent himself to grandiose histrionic personality levels, taking off his guitar strap for a Pete Townsend inspired windmill. He then raises his axe for some feedback sounds, and at this point I can't stand the open chord sounds anymore, but it's entertaining and California Jam 2 responds. The man went absolutely bonkers. He simulates a headache, probably tired of his own voice and the sound of an A chord. All this while a tape echo effect keeps the guitar engine going. Last number, Gonzo, starts with a slight detuned guitar that Ted fixes. I really want to thank my dear patrons at this point. This setlist was exhausting to watch. It felt like the same thing over and over. I had to play some emergency Led Zeppelin music right after. Too bad Derek St. Holmes wasn't given a chance to shine. Ted Nugent's after-show interview underlines a future problem with reporters and calculated media outlets, watered-down responses and pandering to mindless questions. It feels like he's underestimating the audience, and this is the kind of thing Frank Zappa criticized. And yes, Nugent said this.
I'm my own biggest fan, you know. If I wasn't playing, I'd go see me, you know.
Yeah, now he's sideways. Look at the air. Look at the hang time. Look at the flying motion.
Foreigner was next. The classic lineup of Lou Gramm on vocals, Mick Jones on British guitar, Ian MacDonald on British guitar and flute, Al Greenwood on keyboards, Ed Gagliardi on bass, and Dennis Elliott on drums took the stage to ease the pain away from Ted Nugent's set. With just one album, their 10-song setlist was made up of pretty much their debut, plus a couple of songs, Hot-Blooded and Double Vision from their yet-to-be-released follow-up. ABC taped 3 songs. Cold as Ice was a show-stopping number, setting the controls for so many hits that followed, thanks to Lou Gramm's explosive vocals. Like Ann Wilson and Carlos Santana, he wore a somewhat red shirt that focused everyone's attention on the grams and grams of Lou Gramm's talent, a scary combination of musicianship, skill, and pop-oriented songwriting. Some people call them the electric ABBA. They just seemed to learn from previous bands and delivered the things that worked without overplaying. Note, the California Jam 2 logo looked much better at night. Next to Santana, Foreigner were one of the most professional bands that day. Mick Jones went Keith Emerson for 2 seconds on the keys, a terrific performance. Star Rider brought great British artistic heritage to the Speedway thanks to Ian McDonald's fine introduction, where the casualties of Ted Nugent's set were healed by the soft sounds of subtlety. Synthesizer textures took this song to progressive rock terrains. That transition into the heavy riffing battalion is exquisite. They made Atlantic Records proud. The organ solo brought back memories of incendiary John Lord, Deep Purple 1974. Mick Jones's badass Gibson Les Paul work was potent, vigorous, keeper of the tasty British guitar tradition, with a similar blue outfit to 1974's Cal Jam, Tony Iommi. Foreigner sent a clear message. They were to be taken serious, and they sounded like they were together for 10 years or so. Feels like the first time, made great use of the festival space with a steady beat and infectious chorus. You can't help to sing this. Before all the 80s copycats, this was Foreigner crowning the effective songwriting competition. Lou Gramm sells these songs with much conviction. His trademark vocals next to Jones's guitar made them millions. They respect the studio versions but add a live element based on a healthy dose of ego. Not Ted Nugent ego, but a healthy dose of ego. They know they rock and have the songs to prove it. Nothing like a band that sounds like one. Thank you, Foreigner. I forgot about Ted Nugent's set by now. Don Branker takes the stage again to inform the crowd about fires being set up around the venue that need to be put out. Okay, Aerosmith was up next in full headliner mode with a whopping 17-song setlist drawn from their 5-album discography, plus a still unreleased number, Chip Away the Stone, later featured on their live bootleg album. The set also included their take on Willie Dixon's You Shook Me, popularized by Led Zeppelin, a band Steven Tyler and Joe Perry had seen live at the Boston Tea Party, where that very song was performed. ABC broadcast 3 Aerosmith songs. Big 10-inch record was a blues boogie throwback with Steven Tyler on vocals, Joe Perry and Brad Whitford on guitars, Tom Hamilton on bass, and Joey Kramer on drums. It was an old school inspired number with straight ahead vibes and a killer Brad Whitford solo. The hit single Draw the Line brought the crowd back to Aerosmith's signature style, a late 70s anthem packed with high-octane riffing, crunch dance chords, and Steven Tyler's full-throttle frontman bravado. This was a band made for big festival stages, and they delivered the goods. American rock and roll, no preservatives nor additives. Their third ABC pick, Toys in the Attic, was a heavy hitter that landed somewhere between hard rock and proto-punk, an economy of songwriting condensed into tightly packed verses. Descendants of the earlier stadium giants, Aerosmith learned the lessons well. You rock, and then you rock some more. They weren't reinventing the wheel, but they kept it rolling, steering clear of the evil sounds of disco and Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell. The festival was almost over and a tough act to follow Aerosmith, but Canadian rockers were ready for the challenge. Guitarist Frank Marino was about to ignite some serious flames on stage, musically speaking, joined by Jim Ayoub on bass and Paul Harwood on drums. While parts of their 7-song setlist drew from previous studio albums, their performance was centered around versions featured on their live album released that same month. ABC, though, decided to broadcast just one song from their set, and unfortunately, they chose a cover of Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze. I say unfortunately because it's not the best move if you're trying to promote original material. But make no mistake, they owned the stage with no traces of doubt, not a shy performance by any means. Marino went guitar god on his Gibson SG, channeling the Hendrix lessons down to the T. The shortest segment on ABC's broadcast, but the energy speaks of one of the greatest bands that day. Frank Marino and his buddies rocked the stage in frenetic Mahogany Rush style. Don Branker discussed the event's logistics and the intense blue colors of his jacket. He also talked about a possible California Jam 3 at some point.
They are truly incredible people, incredible musicians. They are Rubycon.
Then came the turn for the closing band on March 18, 1978, San Francisco's own Rubycon, with the same lineup that recorded their debut. Future Night Ranger bandmates Brett Gillis on guitar and Jack Blades on bass and vocals, Jim Pugh on keyboards, Jerry Martini on saxophone and vocals, Dennis Marcelino on saxophone and vocals, Max Haskett on trumpet and vocals, and Greg Eckler on drums. Although the complete setlist information is not available, online reports show at least 4 songs performed that day, including That's the Way Things Are off their debut, plus 2 unreleased numbers, Never Gonna Leave and Too Hot to Handle. ABC's broadcast captured another unreleased track, If You Ever Come This Way. What a masterful display of funk, vocals, and wind section arrangements. A flawless collection of sounds that I believe their studio album doesn't really capture. The live setting generates a different kind of energy that reinvigorates their spirits. Their middle section vocal interlude speaks for itself. They were high caliber entertainers. You wish they played during Ted Nugent's time slot and been given a longer set. A professional sounding band with a carefully rehearsed call and response bits, the biggest surprise from the broadcast. Rubycon was up there with Santana in stamina and skill. Maybe forming the band in San Francisco has something to do with it. A great performance. And who was a recording engineer for Rubycon's setlist? The great Andy Johns, from Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin fame. California Jam 2 took things one step further from its previous edition by putting out a live double vinyl set on July 22nd, 1978. A cool cover design. You wish the stage had this logo instead of what it was. Cal Jam 2 was turned into a flying object hovering the crowd with a stage and mountain backdrop. It's an eye-catching design despite the actual event not being that colorful. Gateful design included various photographs from the show, plus a couple of Ted Nugent pics ignoring his bandmates. The album was a great addition to ABC's broadcast as it featured many tracks left off the TV side of things. Rubycon had 2 tracks that you couldn't find on their debut nor follow-up, making this a collector's item of sorts. There was one problem with the soundtrack though. No Foreigner nor Bob Welch, as Atlantic nor Capitol Records agreed to royalty rates and contract terms for it. Because it was a CBS release, it's safe to think other labels didn't want to play by their rules, although Ted Nugent was signed to Epic and Heart was an Epic sister label, Portrait. Rubycon was on 20th Century Records. Dave Mason, Santana, Frank Marino, and Aerosmith were all signed to CBS. Now there was some controversy over the addition of Jean-Michel Jarre's Oxygen Part 5. Why? According to many attendees, there is no record, no evidence of Jean-Michel performing there. He was busy recording Equinox, January through August 1978, and his first big concert didn't take place until 1979 for a crowd of 1 million people. A good move by his label, but California Jam folks were puzzled, wondering if they missed Jarre's performance being too stoned or maybe on a bathroom break when it happened. One source states Jar's Oxygen was played on the PA system in between groups that day, thus why it was included on the soundtrack, but still, it's debatable. California Jam 2 peaked at number 84 in Billboard and spent 10 weeks on the charts. It made its way as a cassette version, but no other release went out past 1978. Add in Aerosmith's live bootleg album out by October, and any future plans for a Cal Jam soundtrack re-release were scrapped. Santana's live take on Dance Sister Dance found its way on disc 2 of Viva Santana, released in 1988. California Jam 2's soundtrack was certainly a step up from ABC's broadcast thanks to an expanded stereo image. Although every artist had a different mixdown engineer, the result was a positive addition to the California Jam experience. These are the album highlights in my book. Both tracks by Santana are superb. They take you back to the Speedway in full Latin rock spirit. Dance Sister Dance should have been captured on video. Same goes for Heart's Love Alive. With all due respect, a much more captivating listen than the obvious Magic Man and Barracuda hits. Ted Nugent set, while energetic, has the guitar a bit too high in the mix at the expense of the drums. It doesn't sound very good. I didn't like it. Aerosmith is a different story, but ironically, the vocals are a bit buried. You wish the song Same Old Song and Dance made the ABC broadcast cut. A great power guitar statement with a rockstar rhythm section behind. Now, like I mentioned, Jean-Michel Jarre's Oxygen Part 5 was taken from the studio album as it wasn't performed at the Speedway. Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush were once again underrepresented, but at least Johnny B. Good was a great snapshot of their set. The biggest treat on the album besides Santana must be Rubycon's Material. This live recording captures their clever funk arrangements and stage chemistry. It will put a smile on your face. Too Hot to Handle is amazing. Now, the recordings don't stop here. Bob Welch, Hart and Aerosmith sets found its way as highly recommended bootlegs that further explain the festival's stage dynamics. A 2017 release was made available via Spotify with 39 songs that sound like a digital transfer from the ABC broadcast mix. It doesn't have the sound quality you expect, but you get plenty of music to enjoy. This is for hardcore fans only. Ontario's Motor Speedway followed an almost exact timeline to Led Zeppelin, breaking ground in September 1968 while calling it quits forever in December 1980. The site saw 6 more races past California Jam 2, but it wasn't enough to keep the business going. The Speedway's municipal bonds were worthless by then, but the land was valuable. It grew up to 1900% in value. The Chevron Corporation bought the whole thing, with a Hilton Hotel built on a portion of the Speedway. By the mid-2000s, the property was fully developed, including the Toyota Arena, with a capacity of 11,000. We can see the area around Lot F, where California Jam's stage used to be. Quite the contrast to see all these places where loud engines and guitars were kings. Everything tangible is temporary, memories are forever.
Good day, it's been a long day, we thank you. Exits, as you well know, is over here to your left at the west parking lot. Behind you, east parking lot. We've run past our curfew. Good night. Drive careful.